Faces of Abortion is the only television program of its kind that shows the powerful, real-life stories of women, men, and families who have suffered the devastation of abortion. Faces of Abortion touches hearts and changes lives in over 125 nations. Faces of Abortion is a program that will help you with healing from the heart and hope for the future. You will be given practical steps for healing in your life and help to end the suffering of abortion.
So it just overwhelmed me. And I thought the only way to escape the pain was to take my life.
I had a fear that I wouldn't be able to have my own children.
It brings heartache. It brings hurt.
And I knew they were tearing my baby apart.
I remember the cold feeling of the room.
I remember laying there and I just said to myself that I will never forgive myself for what I'm doing.
I believe that my life was spared that night just so that I could be here right now and say abortion hurts women.
Whisper, be silent no more.
Welcome to Faces of Abortion. I'm your host, Cindy Collins, and today I am with my co-host, Alan Parker, who is president of the Justice Foundation, and Clayton Trotter, who is general counsel of the Justice Foundation. Just so excited to be here today. The powerful stories that we are getting ready to hear with Carol Everett and also with Jason. I know we've had an opportunity to learn a little bit about both of their testimonies.
Jason and Carol both have amazing stories that are going to show people things about abortion they have never even thought of before.
That's very true, Alan, and now I want to go hear Jason's story in his own words.
It was the weekend before my 17th birthday, and I was awoken by the sound of my high school girlfriend crying. And she was crying and she looked up at me and she said, "I'm pregnant." I wish I didn't feel the way I felt at the time, because I think I would have identified more with most young people, young men who hear that. But my first reaction was one of happiness. And I know that she knew that because her crying quickly turned to laughing. I had to think fast on what we were going to do, and the idea that popped into my head first off was that I should probably drop out of high school and join the Army. And I don't know where I got that idea. Probably from movies, because in movies when a young man gets his girlfriend pregnant, the first thing he does is either drop out of high school and go work at a mill, or drop out of high school and join the Army. And there were no mills in my neighborhood, so I dropped out of high school and I joined the Army, and that was my plan. And for her part, I said, just wear baggy sweaters and take vitamins, and I thought that she had the easy part. So on my birthday, I did exactly that. I went down to the Army recruiting office and I signed the paperwork, and there's a little extra paperwork for a 17-year-old, and I joined the Army. And a few weeks later, I was off to Fort Benning, Georgia. Now, to tell you how strange our society is, we didn't own a suitcase, so I had to use a pillowcase to pack my toiletries, my socks, my toothpaste, my deodorant, and all of that. But the problem was my pillowcase was a Scooby-Doo pillowcase. My girlfriend's pregnant, but I still had a Scooby-Doo pillowcase. So I turned it inside out and I put my toiletries in it. My recruiter picked me up and off I went to Fort Benning, Georgia. And for my girlfriend's part, she wore her baggy sweaters and she took her vitamins. Now, if you've had a loved one in the military, you probably know that for every letter you send them, they have to do push-ups. So I convinced my girlfriend to stop sending me so many letters and just send them all at once at the end of the week, because she was sending me a lot of letters and I was doing a lot of push-ups. She'd also send me a lot of food, and my drill sergeants were so nice to let me eat it all. The unfortunate part was they made me eat it all at once, so I convinced her to stop sending me food. And that's why I was surprised on a Sunday morning that I wasn't allowed to get phone calls. It was my Sunday for duty. that a friend had come running into the kitchen where I was cleaning pots and pans and told me that my girlfriend was on the phone and that she was crying. And so I ran out and I answered the phone, and she was crying like I had never heard a woman cry before in my life. And the only way I can describe it is that her soul was crying. She just kept saying over and over and over again, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. It wasn't me, it wasn't me." And then her father said over the other line, "We know your secret. We know why you joined the Army. We know your secret, Jason, but your secret's gone." I took her to get an abortion. With that, my drill sergeant hung up the phone, and I turned around and I decked him. And fortunately for me, my captain, who was a very large Army Ranger, was also a very devout Christian. And I was standing there crying, and he asked me what had happened, and I told him, and he began to cry. He brought me into his office, and he explained to me. I did not know that abortion was legal. I didn't know much about abortion. I didn't pay attention in many of my classes, and I guess I didn't pay attention in health class when Planned Parenthood came by to push abortion. My captain gave me a roll of quarters, and he told me I could go give my girlfriend a call. And he said, "Don't come back until she felt better." Well, if that were the case, I'd still be on the phone with her. But I walked, and we talked, and we talked for hours. I'm not very good at keeping promises. I probably broke most promises that I make. Every New Year's, I give up coffee, and by January 5th, I start drinking coffee again. Every Lent, I hate to say it, I give up coffee. About 5 or 6 days into Lent, I start praying a rosary a day so I can start drinking coffee again. I don't keep many promises. But that day, I promised my girlfriend, my high school girlfriend, that if it took me the rest of my life, that I would protect unborn children, that I would work to protect women, and that one day, preborn children would have complete legal status. Kind of a naive promise, especially for a young man who just dropped out of high school. But with God's grace, I will keep working at creating a culture of life until I fulfill this promise. And I know a lot of men who are watching this show have also been involved in abortion. And I think those of us men who've been involved in abortion have a special responsibility. I was not there to protect my child, and I was not there to protect my girlfriend. But I can be there to protect other children, and I can be there to protect other women. And so I'm asking all of the men out there, all over the world. In the United States, it's 1 out of 3 men are involved in abortion directly, 1 out of 3 women. But I'd like to ask all of you men who have been involved with abortion, whether you consented out of ignorance or fear, or whether, like in my case, you didn't have a choice. I would ask you to commit your life to helping to create a culture of life.
Her soul was crying. We heard that out of Jason's mouth in his own words, and I was just so struck by still seeing the pain, the grief in Jason's heart of, as a young man, not being able to stand up for his unborn child. He did everything that he could, knowing as a young teen, to stand up, even the act of going into the Army, of defending our country, and thinking that this would be an opportunity for his young girlfriend to have her child.
And you know, the thing that amazed me too about this testimony is here's a young man who's trying to do the right thing. And his girlfriend calls him up crying, and he says, "Okay, we're going to do the right thing."
That's right.
You know, I'm going to join the Army, you're going to have the baby. It seems like to me they should have gotten married before he